Should we start now, sir?
I would think so. Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So, a very good morning to all of you, and a warm welcome to the 15th session of our esteemed webinar series, 24 in 2024, a series by Whiteboard Education and Research Foundation in association with Deltron Technologies. It's an absolute pleasure to have you all join us today as we continue our journey of bridging the gap between corporate and education. Once again, we are back with the enriching sessions, and this is your host, Tanisha. Today, we are honored to introduce Mr. Uday Parmar, the visionary co-founder of LilyPads, a pioneering two-wheeler EV marketplace and social commerce website. LilyPads is redefining the way we approach electric two-wheelers, offering high-quality options that can be purchased directly with convenient choices for a home demo or dealer visit. Their rigorous due diligence process, combining both automated and human elements, ensures that partners and prospects meet the highest standards. Mr. Parmar brings a wealth of experience to the table, having served as the ex-director of business development at EY, where he played a crucial role in driving business growth. He is also a founding partner at Business Technology Labs and has served as a consultant at KPMG, where his strategic insights have helped shape numerous successful ventures. Today, Mr. Uday Parmar will share his expertise and insights in a session focused on future proofing your career. With his diverse background and deep understanding of the evolving business landscape, Mr. Parmar is uniquely positioned to guide you in navigating the challenges and opportunities of the modern job market. We are confident that this session will be a valuable experience for everyone looking to secure their place in the future of work. Please join us in welcoming Mr. Uday Parmar. Before we start, I would like to tell the audience that their mics are muted. So if anyone is having any queries or questions, they can ask in the chat box in the last 15 minutes. We will be having a question answer session where your questions will be answered. Now the virtual stage is all yours, Mr. Pramar.
Thank you, Tanisha, for your kind introduction. Thank you also to the organizers for inviting me and setting this up. Uh, can I just confirm that I'm visible, audible, and my screen is visible too?
Yes, you are, sir.
Okay, perfect, perfect. So, I'll try to keep this as free flowing and informal because one way communication usually gets a little boring. So I would urge, since we have a relatively small audience, please try and keep this as interactive as possible. It'll be more engaging if I have some audience participation as well. So, you can communicate through the chat box, ask questions, and yeah, let's just get started. So, let me just kick this off with a little introduction about myself. So, yes, I am the co-founder of a tiny little startup called LilyPad, and we kicked off as of the 1st of July this year. We are a multi-brand electric vehicle online marketplace, and our focus in particular is on two-wheeler electric vehicles. So, would love for the audience to do check us out, our socials, follow us on LinkedIn, and just support us as we try and establish this small little brand. So we are a first of a kind category creator. Like I said, we've barely been operational for 1.5 months. So very, very early days. Currently, we sell about 30 electric vehicles from about 8 companies. And hopefully by the end of the year, we should be selling close to 100 products from maybe 25, 30 companies. Uh, and yes, I before this I was ex-director business development at Ernst& Young. I also was vice president for business development at a strategy consulting firm called Boston Analytics, and I spent a couple of years with the KPMG as a consultant. So I've been working now for about 22 odd years, and for the last year or so, I've been focused on my own startup. So that's a little tiny introduction about myself. I think the agenda, like I said, wanted to keep this fairly free flowing and informal. Why future proof yourself? I'll talk about some conventional ways, and then I'll talk about some slightly unconventional ways, right? So let me just kick this off by asking, attendees, what does future proof mean, right? Can I have some audience participation? Can people in the chat box tell me what they, uh, what they conjure up, what they imagine when they hear the word or the term future proof? What does it mean to you? Anyone? There are no wrong answers. I'll give a minute for folk to actually give me a couple of responses. Come on, one or two responses. When you hear the word future proof, what do you actually think of? Anyone? No one? Come on, it can't be that tough a term. Does anyone have any idea what the word future proof actually means or the term means?
So to me, I guess having a job that is we are good to go in the future too. Like
Yeah, yeah,
that will be beneficial for the future too.
correct.
Not outdated.
Correct. Absolutely. So if you look at it, future proof as a verb, which means to do, or as an adjective, which means to describe, both mean pretty much the same thing, right? Any product, systems, and in our case, people who are unlikely to become obsolete or fail in the future. So I think the whole, the topic and the agenda is, what do you do and how do you actually ensure that you don't become obsolete or fail in the future? Given that we hear about, things changing, technologies changing. What does it mean for young students and young professionals as they have just entered the workforce or are about to enter the workforce? And I've actually just, yesterday I just did a quick Google search and asked Google the question, show me some companies that have failed. And here you'll see some companies that actually used to be, representative of the entire brand category. And companies like Xerox or Yahoo or BlackBerry and even Kodak, and to some extent even Nokia, are no longer today what they used to be. And the reason is that they could not, they became obsolete and failed because they could not kind of, cope up with changes that were taking place in the ecosystem per se. And I think Elon Musk summed it up when he said, focus on 3 to 5 years down the line. Most people don't realize that the life they live right now is based solely on decisions they made 3 to 5 years ago. So, what you do today, the steps you take to future-proof yourself today will pay and yield rich dividends in the coming 3 to 5 years. So, I guess the point I'm trying to make here is that knowing where the world is moving to is as important for people as it is for businesses. So, with that, let me actually open this up and talk to you about a couple of scenarios, right? I mean, because there are different types of people. I'll start with regular conventional job seekers, right? So, try to look at some mega trends that are there in the market and what does it mean for people who are students or young professionals, in the early parts of their career or yet to start their career. So one of the mega trends we've been hearing about is that tech skills and tech in general will dominate, right? And that's a no-brainer pretty much. Uh, there will be a lot of new types of companies that will woo you or try to engage with you only if you're ready for them. Irrespective of technology being dominant or not, human centricity continues to be important. So human centric skills will be just as important as technology. The next mega trend, especially people who are, in HR, gender gap will continue to be a big theme. And then, the king of all mega trends, in my opinion, will be networking. Who you are, what you are depends on who you know. So, what do these mega trends actually mean in terms of actions that we should be taking as youngsters? And, whenever I mentor and advise people, this is what I usually tell them that so the first mega trend I mentioned was that tech skills and tech in general will continue to dominate. What does that mean? That means that as students and young professionals, we should always be, riding the curve and try and gain a deeper understanding of 5 or 6 areas that at least I think are very important, right? Artificial intelligence, robotics, cloud computing. I obviously am in the electric vehicle space, so I think that's a big tech paradigm that one needs to kind of understand, blockchain, so on and so forth. The second trend I mentioned was that there will be new companies who are ready to embrace young talent. What does that mean? That means that we should look beyond the large established companies and explore smaller startups who are willing to take bets on young talent. And so I constantly encourage my mentees to explore new age companies coming up in areas like sustainability, energy storage, quantum computing, smart algorithms, smart homes, so on and so forth. The third big megatrend that I spoke about was human centricity. So, what does this mean for people who are looking at getting into, HR? I think you may or may not like or embrace technology, and that's perfectly fine. Even if human resources is something that you're keen on, there are several areas that are very, very focused on people interaction and kind of jobs where human centricity is very important. So talent acquisition, customer success, social media. So I think I always urge people to focus on soft skills, leadership development, so on and so forth. Now, again, coming to gender gap, what does this mean in terms of action? Uh, if you look at it in India, in technology, the share of women in the workforce is below 30%. And so, in my opinion, again, kind of sticking to HR, I would actually urge boys and girls, young men and women to actually focus on emerging areas like gender parity, hiring diversity, inclusivity, so on and so forth. And then finally, the point I mentioned about networking, this I think holds true in general in life, that there's something called the network gap, right? There are people who have an abnormal advantage based on who they know. So I always I urge people, keep networking, whether it is attending events or networking on LinkedIn or attending seminars or talks like this. So I think that is the kind of prescription I would have for people who are looking at conventional kind of jobs. But what if folks are not interested in regular jobs? I mean, what guidance can I perhaps give to them? So let me just move to the next area. Let me just also pause in case anyone has any questions, comments, observations. Uh, yeah, Shivam and Neeraj. Shivam said to safeguard ourselves financially. Absolutely. Any changes in future keeps you succeeding. Absolutely. Yeah. You keep succeeding no matter what the change in the future state is. Absolutely. I think you both had future proofing spot on. So I'm just going to move to the next slide. Now, and I've just got 7 or 8 pretty random thoughts, but I just thought, what if people are not interested in regular jobs? What guidance could we give them? So let me again have a quick show of hands. You don't even need to answer. You can just, raise your hands or just say yes in the chat to this question, right? How many of you want to start something of your own? So the earlier slide, I spoke specifically about people from a job standpoint. I mean, how do you future-proof yourself? But how do you future-proof yourself if you want to become an entrepreneur? So any young men or ladies on the seminar, can you give me a show of hands? So Mansi says yes. Good. Trisha says yes. Uh, let's see if anyone. HG, I don't know your name, but yes, you've said yes. Anyone else? Just Jaya says yes. Diksha says yes. Who else? Shivam says yes. Awesome, awesome. So yeah, we do have some prospective entrepreneurs online. And as someone who started his entrepreneurial journey so late, I mean, I'm 46. I became an entrepreneur. I mean, I did start my small startup many years ago, but I actually started Lilypad when I was 45. So I'm a very late stage entrepreneur, and that comes with a tremendous and abnormal amount of risk. So my actual guidance to people is that there's no time to start like it is currently, right? uh, Lilypad is currently in the process of fundraising, and so I see that currently the market is absolutely flooded with what they call dry powder. So there's a lot of funds available. Sensex is, I think, at about 79 K. Nifty, I think, has breached 24,000. There are absolutely no barriers to starting a business today, right? I mean, all you need is a laptop and an internet connection, and you're good to go, right? And more importantly, I think there's a changing mindset. So 20 years ago, entrepreneurship wasn't what it is today, and I think corporates didn't respect failure. At EY, when I used to interview people, I had so many failed entrepreneurs come to me, and I think people wear that today as a badge of honor. So there's absolutely no time to start like now. That's point number one. Once again, technology is the biggest enabler and opportunity. I mean, there are so many areas that are upcoming, be it cybersecurity, privacy. I already spoke about cloud, blockchain, sustainability, quantum computing. There's just so many areas that we can consider, and so many technologies that we can use to be able to kind of power our startup. That it's just not funny. Um, Again, sorry for another question. I mean, uh, especially looking at the audience right now, I mean, what is the one biggest thing that you have going for you, right? When I ask this question, I do a lot of training sessions at some Delhi University colleges, and everybody tends to talk about their college. Oh, I study at Hansraj. Oh, I study at Sri Ram. Uh, but let me ask you, as of today, looking at the audience, what's the one biggest thing that you have going for you? When I say going for you, I mean, what's the biggest advantage that all of you have? Does anyone want to? Shivam, Neeraj, do you want to put something again in the chat box? I mean, what is the singular biggest advantage that you think this audience has? Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can always connect with me on LinkedIn, and I can have a detailed discussion, because I think this session will be we'll just go on answering this question. HG, I'm sorry, I don't know your name, but I think it's all about figuring out what your skill sets are and what you want to do, figuring out whether they're market. So I can run you through the way I approached LilyPad, and how I thought about getting into doing something that was, in my opinion, quite unique. But we'll love to throw some light on this offline. Please connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm happy to have a discussion with you. But just coming back to the question, ladies and gentlemen, just if you could touch upon what is the single biggest advantage. I mean, we all think of, you all perhaps think of yourself as youngsters. मेरे पास experience नहीं है. For me, getting a job also, could be challenging. And this guy is asking me, what is the one biggest thing that I have going for me? I think many times we feel we have nothing going for us, like we're, kind of swimming against the tide. But what do you think is the biggest thing that you have going for you? Anyone wants to hazard a guess? Let me give you my point of view. I think it's your age, right? All of you are, I'm assuming, maybe early to mid 20s. And so use that time wisely. 20 years from now, you'll be a person who's in his mid 40s, like myself, and taking risk will be very, very difficult. So the biggest thing you have going for you is not your education or your college or your learning. I think it's your age, right? And my view is always, use it wisely, and embrace the risk that comes with it. And finally, kind of touching upon the question that was raised, many times we feel we want to get into something of our own, but we may not have the necessary skills. And I think today we've reached an age where building pretty much has absolutely no barriers associated with it, right? You have websites like edX or Coursera. One second, let me just see if you guys can see my dogs just entered the room. Anyways, so yeah, today you have websites like Coursera that can pretty much ensure that you learn till you die. To sound a little morbid, but there are so many new age ed techs and e-learning platforms that offer the ability for you to learn remotely at your own pace, not reliant on pen on paper, but very tech driven, individualized, focuses on skills and not degrees. So my view is that In summary, in this slide, what I've tried to say is that the biggest advantage that all of you have is your age. Use it wisely. Yes, entrepreneurship comes with risk. Embrace that risk. This is a very good time to start a business. The market is awash with funds. Uh, you know, uh, uh, you have technologies that can enable everything that you want to do, and your friends, colleagues who want to kind of gang up and start something but feel that you don't have there is a learning challenge. There is plenty of material available online. I mean, I'm not one of the, I don't embrace doing multiple degrees. I've done 3 degrees myself, and I don't think it has added value. I've learned more in 1 year of entrepreneurship than I have in my bachelor's or my master's or so on and so forth. So uh, that's the kind of thoughts I had for people who want to actually embrace entrepreneurship. Let me move to the next slide. Let me just pause for questions, comments, thoughts, observations. um, yeah, access to technology is an advantage, and its use for effectiveness is a challenge. Absolutely. I think a classic case in point is large language models like chat gpt. Today you have people who, if you go to LinkedIn, use chat gpt to comment. They use chat gpt to send you messages, create emails, and it just ends up kind of being more like a garbage in, garbage out, because they don't start with originality of thought. They end up with something quite so I mean, I agree with you, HG, that access to technology is a big advantage, but if you don't know how to use it, it's pretty much useless. So, any questions, thoughts, comments, observations, or I can just carry on? Uh, the next chart that I wanted to show you was, you know, what if you don't have an idea of the job that you want to do, you don't know whether you want to do entrepreneurship. What guidance could be given to people? Because let's face it, youngsters are typically figuring their way out. So I don't know कि मुझे नौकरी करनी है, I don't know कि मुझे entrepreneurship करना है. What guidance could I give to them? My first thought is that the best initial pathway to success is an internship. How do you do that? You pretty much pick up either people or companies that inspire you. And if you get a paid opportunity, great. And I know there's this big controversy around, unpaid internships are, akin to using people like slave labor. I don't think so. I don't necessarily agree with that. It depends on, what your skills are. If you have very limited skill sets, then I would actually say offer a free hand of help in exchange for learning and experience. So, to answer your question, HG, many a times we don't know what to do. I think there are plenty and more people who today are doing 1 or 2 month internships for the entirety of their undergraduation. So I know people who have done 8 or 10 internships, and I think that's a bit much. But even if you do over the course of 3 years, if you do 4 or 5 internships, that helps you pick up companies, that helps you pick up sectors, that helps you pick up job roles that at least you get exposed to and figure out what your interest is, and then you can figure out whether you want to actually work or you want to start something of your own. So I think the best initial pathway to success in my mind is internships. A point that I cannot stress when talking about future proofing yourself is the whole concept of developing a good attitude and giving value, right? I mean, attitude as the workplace, attitude at your college, I think is so important. How adjusting a person are you? How accommodating are you? How do you like to share, with your friends and colleagues? And let me tell you categorically, we all today assume that the world is full of geniuses, but let me also tell you that people at work would rather work with a likable mediocre person than a pain in the backside genius. So I think always focus on developing the right attitude. Uh, and then I spoke about, it says attitude and giving value. What does giving value mean? I think giving value means that, are you above and beyond your work? Are you able to kind of give some time for a cause beyond your work, right? Uh, as a small, let's say some of you might be studying, accounting or, economics or commerce or whatever. Some of you might have a flair for finance. you could actually approach small startups and say, look, I can actually help do your book of accounts. Some of you may have a flair for people management, and so you could actually say that, well, there are so many small startups or NGOs you could approach to actually say, let me start maybe training their staff. So developing the right attitude, irrespective of whether you want to do a job or do entrepreneurship, developing the right attitude and developing a sense of providing value before you actually kind of ask for something. And I think a classical case in point is LinkedIn. Many a times people approach other people on LinkedIn, and within 15-20 minutes of a connection request being accepted, immediately shoot out a message saying, this is who I am and this is what I want from you. So unfortunately, life doesn't work that way. You have to demonstrate that you're able to provide value, you're able to add value before you actually ask for it. uh, Again, networking and developing bonds cannot stress this more. Finally, success comes from the power of your extended network. If I look at my 2 decades in business development, I have cracked more deals by just networking with people, providing them value, helping them when I could, and sure enough, as and when they actually need my services or my help, they reach out to me. So again, just this whole business of don't try and be a genius, try and be a likable mediocre person, even that's better, right? And so how you actually develop peer bonds. I think today, unfortunately, I see at a very young age folks are kind of competing rather than collaborating. So I think that attitude also needs to change, where you actually start to focus on collaboration and not competition. And then finally, you know the world has there are so many ways and means of actually sharing and amplifying your story. I firmly believe that everyone has a story, and that one should constantly focus on branding the hell out of yourself. So if any of you actually visit my LinkedIn, you'll see I talk a lot about my entrepreneurship journey. I talk about small little milestones. I thank my team, and hopefully tomorrow, even if somebody wants to buy a product, or tomorrow somebody wants to join my board as an advisor, or indeed wants to become an investor, they're able to actually look at how I've been sharing my story, right? And like I said, everyone has a story. No one's story is interesting, no one's story is boring. Everyone has a story, and I think one should focus on that part as well. I'm just going to look at the chat if there is any questions. No questions, so I'll just power along. uh, let me know if you have any questions. I'm happy to address them. uh, the final part of this presentation, I would just like to talk about. I spoke about branding, and fortunately or unfortunately, today's success is predicated on being seen as a thought leader. So if you actually look at how companies, excuse me, how companies typically think about thought leadership. Thought leadership has so many components, but if I were to talk, if I were to be giving youngsters advice on thought leadership, I would say focus on becoming subject matter experts and focusing on leveraging social media, right? So 3 points really to be able to develop your own brand. So what are we saying? That eventually you need to be able to develop your brand, develop your story, disseminate it out there, and nobody just wants to listen to random gyan. So start to develop points of view on areas that are of interest to you. Start to be kind of start at least putting it out there. Slowly but surely you'll start to develop some sort of thought leadership, start to develop some sort of unique points of view. And I think that's going to be so important, whether it is people who you look at in terms of potential recruiters, whether you're starting out, whether you want to do an internship, just for everything. So thought leadership is critical. Social media presence is very, very important today, and focus on becoming an SME. Now, let me actually show you a small example of brand building. This is an example of where we did brand building for my boss, who was a partner at EY. Even after working for 15 odd years, he didn't have the social media brand that reflected the kind of domain expertise and the knowledge that he had built. And so just using some very focused, pointed techniques, how we were able to develop his brand. And today, if you look at him on LinkedIn, he's a far different person than what he was 3 years ago. So I just want to talk about just a practical manifestation of brand building. Hopefully, you'll be able to pick up some examples. So basically, what we did was that in this context at EY within our forensics team, for 6 months, we did some very focused things. One is that of the 10, 12 areas that EY's forensics team used to work on, we said, look, we cannot talk about everything. Otherwise, our message will become very diluted. So we focused on certain areas that we thought were most relevant. So all these thumbnails are basically very, very focused points of view that we put out there on cybersecurity and privacy. So we wrote 35 pieces of content focused only on privacy and cybersecurity. We didn't look left, we didn't look right. We kept this varied. So we had weekly roundups, we had articles, we had posts, we had tributes, and we tried to figure out what really worked, what really did not resonate. And surprisingly, for a corporate brand where normally it is individuals connect with the brand, here we actually reached out and carefully increased our practices LinkedIn network by about 750 people in the next over 6 months. So for 6 months, rather than just being a random so if you look at any of these large companies social media posts, they all look the same. You could replace Google by Facebook, you could replace EY by KPMG, they all sound the same. So we said, let's try and develop a brand, let's try and do something different. So A, we focused, like I said, only on cyber and privacy. B, we wrote a lot. We used to have about 6 to 7 posts every month. C, we kept it varied because we didn't know that one thing would work over the other. And four, rather than just be recipients of requests, we actually reached out to who we thought were subject matters and perhaps relevant customers for us, which is something that brands normally don't do. Now, a lot of you would be wondering, "तो इसमें कौन सी बड़ी बात हो गई? What really happened? ये तो बहुत लोग करते हैं." So let me also show you the end result. I think the end result of this was quite interesting. If the slide loads, just give me a minute. Yeah, the end result of this was that over a 6 month period, we started to get a significant amount of traction. So for example, you look at these posts, we regularly had posts with about 20, 30,000 views. Second, because of this, media and reporters and journalists started to appreciate and understand and know that there were people who were talking about cybersecurity and privacy. So we started getting approached by publications to actually list our opinion out there. And see, based on this and us reaching out to prospective clients, we actually started to get requests for proposal through LinkedIn, which typically doesn't happen. So uh, and I think this holds true for brands equally, and it holds true for people as well. So, doing this, developing your brand, becoming a subject matter expert, putting yourself out there helps you become more visible, more acceptable, and finally leads to better outcomes. In this case, it was more business. So I think this was, I tried to put down, in my opinion, what we did as a brand, but I think it is equally relevant to people as well. With this, I come to what I think is the last slide, and I thank all of you for bearing with me. I'm going to look at if there are any. Can we have your LinkedIn ID and your website? Absolutely, Rahul. I will just put that. Two-wheeler EV अगर खरीदना है तो please खरीदना हमसे. That is, and let me also share my. But I'm just coming to the end of this. I would request, I know, that people are usually shy online and may not want to ask questions, but, I am very, very open to speaking with people on LinkedIn as well. So please do connect with me. That's me. I've been doing mentorship, I think, for about 10 years now. I'm very happy to connect with you. So what do I want to say in conclusion? I think, look, like many talks, sometimes we really struggle to figure out what the point of the talk really was, because I spoke about If you want to do a job, here are some tips. If you want to do entrepreneurship, here are some tips. And in general, here are some tips, and this is how you brand yourself. I think if I were to offer one takeaway, and it's actually not rocket science, basically figure out the path that you want to take. The more unique a path you can choose for yourself, the happier you'll be and the more chances of success you'll have. I think a lot of us may have seen this this cartoon where this guy is telling a crow, a monkey, a penguin, an elephant, a fish, I think a seal, and a dog, that everybody has a fair selection. For a fair selection, everybody has to take the same exam. Please climb that tree. Now, obviously, some animals are going to be less successful than others. So basically, figure out your own pathway, right? Life is not about everyone giving one exam, right? Work on only what you like. Don't just go with what people tell you, no matter who. Figure out your own path, work on what you like. So, for example, if collecting knowledge is something, or working on information is something that you like, careers in research and consulting are good. If storytelling is what you like, then working on branding and social media is good. If human connection is what you like, then perhaps business development and HR is good for you. If building new stuff is what you like, then perhaps entrepreneurship is something for you. So, like I said, in conclusion, figure out the path you want to take. The more unique, the better. Work on only things that you like. And yeah, with that, thanks very much for your time. It's a wrap. If any idea on investors, if I want to approach them, how can I reach them? So Shivam, again, connect with me on LinkedIn. I think there are some publicly available sources of information when it comes to finding investors. And these lists I can share. I mean, my team is currently working on reaching out to some investors ourselves. So yeah. By the way, if anyone who connects with me, I'll also share with you my pitch deck. A lot of people are always interested in understanding ki, yaar, how do you actually take an idea, how do you create something, and then how do you take it, how do you go to investors, what's your pitch. So I think we're at that stage, and I'm going to put it out on LinkedIn more often to share my small little successes and multiple failures that are going to come my way. So yeah, um, I'll be happy to share that. EV market is the best demanding business for now. How hard is it to start an EV business in terms of challenges? So, Rahul, in our case, initially when we started, we wanted to do several things in the EV space. And if I talk to you about the business models that I've thought of, I wanted to start a EV solar powered EV charging business. I wanted to get into EV trainings. I wanted to get into EV jobs. I wanted to get into gig workers, and I was thinking of e-commerce. Um, Finally, in our case, it all boils down to your risk appetite. We did not have the money to put down for, manufacturing or getting into heavy capital expenditure. So for me, choosing e-commerce was simply looking at the market. The market, if you look at the market, it's very simple. EV cars sell about maybe not even 5,000 a month, and EV two-wheelers sell about 100,000 every month. Uh, EV, if you look at the overall two-wheeler market in India, it is about 18 lakh two-wheelers, of which EVs are only 1 lakh. Uh, so currently the penetration is 5-6%. By 2030, the government has said that they want to get this to about 30%. So मोटा मोटा 1 लाख टू व्हीलर ईवी बिक रही है अभी 2030 तक 5-6 लाख बिकेंगी महीने में. So it's a trend that is kind of quite strong. If you look at it, the government's giving good incentives, good subsidy. If you look at it, our environment is very polluted. You might not know it. India is home to 39 of the 50 most polluted cities. Just till last year, Delhi was the most polluted capital in the world. I think this year we lost the title, thankfully, to the capital of Chad. I think most of us won't even be able to point out Chad on a map, the country Chad. So we lost out to that. So yeah, I think how hard is it to start an EV business? I think if you're manufacturing, then it's very hard. So we are going in more for the distribution side of things. For us, it's hard because I think everything boils down to people, right? Getting the right set of people who you can motivate and take on for the journey. I think that determines success. So it doesn't really matter if you're doing EV or soft drinks. I think it boils down to people. Yash has a very open-ended question. Give me any good business solutions. I assume he means areas that one can consider for entrepreneurship. Again, Yash, बहुत time लग जाएगा मेरे को आपको बताने में. जरूर आप LinkedIn पे connect करो and let me share with you my thoughts. My personal view is that anything to do with smart energy and sustainability are going to be very, very, very big and dominant themes. Uh, Companies are now going to are actively looking at sustainability. So they're not only looking at them being sustainable and good for the environment, they're looking at their vendors, their suppliers being sustainable and good for the environment. So if you today look at any listed company and open up their annual reports, you will find a very big section on sustainability. Let me give you an example. Zomato has publicly said that by 2030, their entire fleet will be electric vehicles. So actually at Lilypad, we're working out a deal where we want to deploy about 100 of our own scooters for Zomato drivers and going up to about 500. So Zomato has publicly stated they want to get into EV. A couple of days ago, I was looking at the Swiggy president. He also spoke about this. A couple of days ago, I was looking at a note by the head of sourcing at Myntra. He was saying, guys, if anyone's working on anything in sustainability. So I think energy conservation, sustainability, battery management, because that's an area that I actively study. I think that's an area of great interest. I think the other area of great interest is going to be around digital marketing and how companies are, can you help companies create good content and disseminate good content out there? Okay, that's something that we are kind of struggling with. So that would be my answer. Yeah, that's about it. Shivangi has already shared the WhatsApp channel and the Whiteboard Foundation YouTube page. So you guys should check both of that. And different pathways. You're most welcome, Rahul. Uh, Nothing more from my side. Unless there are any questions, we can actually wrap this up.
Guys, if you have any questions, you can write them down at in the chat box. Anyone, if you have any questions. I guess your topic and your idea was very much clear to every one of us. They don't have any
I
more
hope so.
questions.
I hope so. Thank you so very much, everyone. I look forward to getting some LinkedIn requests, and thank you for the organizers for this session. Thank you, Tanisha, for being such a good host. Take care, everyone. Bye bye.
Let me. Hello?
Yeah, I'm right here. I just switched off my camera.
Okay, you're right here, right? No, sir. Actually, I wanted to thank you. It was indeed a very enriching session. So, as we conclude today's session, I would like to extend our deepest gratitude to you, sir, for sharing your valuable knowledge and your experience with us. Your insights have undoubtedly empowered us to navigate our careers with confidence and foresight. At Whiteboard Foundation, our mission is to bridge the gap between education and the corporate world, ensuring that young professionals are equipped with the tools and knowledge needed to succeed in today's dynamic job market. Mr. Pamar, your contribution today has greatly advanced this mission, providing our audience with practical advice and the inspiration to future-proof their careers. Thank you once again, Mr. Pamar, for being a part of our Changemakers series and for helping us shape a brighter future.
Thanks,
Thank you,
everyone. Take
everyone.
care.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, everyone. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel. The link is in the chat box, and you can also join our WhatsApp community. We keep on doing such sessions. Thank you, guys.